Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hey there, hi there, ho there. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? This is RHJunior, RHJunior Reality Check Live, coming to you live over the internet through a system of tubes known as YouTube. As a substitute for the tube, bringing you another broadcast of Spin Squeezins. Hope you like it, hope you love it, hope you stick around. Hey, how y'all doing? This is me in the middle of the day, or the late afternoon. It's middle of the day for me, it's late afternoon for you all. And I'm sitting here debating on whether or not I should order a pizza. Can't afford it. Can't afford nothing right now. I just counted on my fingers and toes and realized I didn't pay my taxes last month, so I gotta. Yeah, I'm supposed to send in $90 every month, and I forgot to send in $90 for September. So I've got $40 in the bank, and well, I've got $40 in PayPal. That's another thing. My bank account closed out some time ago, and consequently, I need at some point to get together $100. It's an ordeal. They won't let you do it over line. They won't let you do it on phone. They won't let you do it online. You have to go in person to either open or reopen the bank account. So I've gotta load my butt into a van again to go downtown to open a bank account, just so I can make certain transactions online. And this is making my life joyous. And I don't have the money right now either. That's the real fun part. If I did have the money, I'd have to take it right back out in the next instant to pay some dang bill or another. So there you go. Bad video settings, blah blah, whine. I hate YouTube sometimes. Dang it, no idea how to fix this. I have got cable internet. It's stupid to do anything otherwise. Dial up, sure, I'd save $20 a month probably, but I wouldn't be able to get anything done. It would be like trying to work through it'd be like trying to wade through peanut butter. What was I doing? What was it? Oh yes, just resetting the. Loopage. Switching over, trying to finish up. I got several strips out. Oh damn! All right, let's get one of those done today. I'm in a bad place right now mentally. Not much sleep, I suppose, is part of the problem. Had a rough night. The support under my bed is broken out, so I had to slide a sheet of plywood under there to keep my butt from falling through. And it was like sleeping. It was worse than sleeping on a flat board, because it felt like it was. I don't know. It was just flat hard. Even with the mattress between me and the board, it still felt like I was. It felt like I was laid backwards over the back of a bench or something. And I slept a couple hours and woke up with a killer backache. I've managed to find a second I got this. I got a couple of old ratty. Got like a, I got this old futon I bought at Big Lot. That's my bed, and I have two different mattresses. The thin, cheap, flat one and the expensive one with the springs in it. So I've thrown up the mattresses on top of it now. They both need to be burned. The bed needs to be burned and thrown away. It needs to be thrown away, and the mattresses need to be burned. They're old. They're sweat stain. Yeah. But I'm gonna see if it sleeps a little bit better. Anyway. Excuse me. I'm an idiot. I must be. Well, I'm kind of proud of myself. I managed to go this long playing Minecraft before I looked up the cheat codes. I just got tired. I've turned the underground underneath my. I built that little mansion. I turned the underground into like an ant hill. Digging and digging and digging and digging and digging and just looking for gold ore. And it was driving me nuts because it's like the rarest thing there, but you need it for everything. If you want to build all the cooler little gadgets you can build in the crafting station, like powered rails for your minecart, that kind of thing. You need gold ore. You also need redstone, and I find plenty of redstone. I can't find no gold ore. And I finally got fed up. I said, okay, look up the codes, and it said it had a thing where you could fill a given area. You give the coordinates. There's a command line. It's \fill. Then you give the coordinates of one square and give the coordinates of another square, and it will fill a cube with those two coordinates as the base coordinate. Just fill up with whatever you specify. And I said, gold ore, and the next thing I know, my character was encased in a 1,000 square wide block of gold ore. I managed to dig my way to freedom before it killed me, but I literally have this floating island of gold ore uh, off the shoreline of of my island. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit large. And then I thought about it, and why am I getting a gold ore? And I had to make another block of nothing but solid gold blocks. For those who don't play Minecraft, you can, once you've smelted something or carved it into board, there are certain things you can compact them together into a block. Like you can take 64. You can take 9 of anything and just about anything and compact it into a block, which makes it a lot easier to store stuff. Gives extra space. And so, 1 block of gold is 9 bars of gold. And next thing I did that with a couple other things. I needed a little bit of iron, a little bit of redstone, and now I'm finally building that track I wanted so bad. But finally gave up and cheated. I could just figure out how to use the clone command and have it lay the tracks out for me in a huge long strip. Just make one little square area and have it clone it for like a couple of $1,000. Ta-da! But I'm not doing that. I managed to destroy my little outpost. It just disintegrated it with a giant block of gold ore, which is still there. Because I really didn't feel like mining all that gold ore and then going to all the trouble of smelting it, when I could just, go straight to the source and make gold. Anyway, I don't know. That's the thing about, there's such a thing as cheat codes. Something about the whole deal just unravels, if you know what I'm saying. Because you feel, if you use the cheat codes, you sort of spoil the experience for yourself. But if you don't use the cheat codes, you're sitting there, grinding and feeling like an idiot for doing it. This is why the pay to win games actually get so many, because people are tired. For $2 I could just beat these 5 levels. I love how people are, I'm not going to let you. They go to, because I'm not going to let you spend $5, $10 just to get a few things on a game. And meanwhile, these people are saying this. I'm not going to let you spend money on these pay to play games. No, I'm not going to. These are the same people that would spend like their entire month's allowance on an arcade game, playing Pac-Man or Pong or any one of the other cabinet games out there. So that's what that kind of pummeled me as a kid, because I never got much money. We weren't very wealthy. I never really had an allowance. Never. Once, every 5, 10 years, Dad would go, okay, we're going to try giving you an allowance, and that would last about 2 weeks. Yeah, loving that, steadfast promise keeping there, Dad. But, it sounded like a good idea, and then downhill it goes. My dad's idea of allowance was $5. Even back in the 80s, that was nothing. Good grief. I'm like, Dad, can we talk this over? It's not 1955 anymore. That's a hard thing. There's no right answer. No matter what you do, it's always, somebody's going to come back and tell you it's the wrong thing to do. And they'll have chapter and verse to tell you why. I'm late to the game, losing certain articles of faith in my life, I suppose. Guys, when I was a kid, I'm drawing here. I've got you on the wrong camera. Let me switch over here. It's just an old man feeling regret, I suppose. And yes, 46 is old. We fooled ourselves. We are not the elves of Lord of the Rings. All right, okay. We are not getting any. We are not really so much getting longer lived as that we're just, taking longer to die. I see these people. We're living over 100 years old. I see these people on TV. See, where our lifespan has increased incredibly. Look at this 100-year-old woman, and they got this thing with looks like beef jerky with eyes, lying in a hospital bed, wheezing out her last. And I'm like, this is a life. Don't get me wrong here. I'm all for respecting and taking good care of the elderly, but sometimes you wonder, is this living or is it just not dying? And I look at myself, and look, my life is long. In other circumstances, 100, 200 years ago, I'd be dead. But it comes down to this: is that we're living longer, but we're not staying young long, is what I think I'm saying. What I'm trying to say here. And frankly, a 40 or 50-year-old from 100 years back, probably about the same physical shape that I am in now. Well, that the average 50-year-old is today. Same aches and pains, same declining energy. In fact, they're probably in a little, depending on where you went, they're probably in a little bit better health. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind at least if we, they say the average lifespan is 80 years now. I wouldn't mind that in the least if we stayed young longer. We spent, we have 20 to at most 20 to 30 years, 20 years to grow up. About 10 years after that, 10, maybe 15, more or less in our prime. And then it's all downhill from there. We spend the majority of our life in declining health, and that's terrible. And the alternative is worse. Spending every waking moment, fussing about diet and exercise and nutrition and medication and all these other things. And, it's even if we didn't get longevity, I would much rather have extended youth. I would much rather have a life where you spend you live 100 years, by suppose we lived like 100 years and first 90 years physically you reach about your 30s and then you start slowing down and at the age of 90 you're still physically in your 30s, and then the last 10 year last 10 years is the final decline. I hate the fact that I'm not even halfway through the game and I already feel like I'm down to 1 hit point. You know what I'm saying? We're not here for the course. The general theological answer is that we're not here for just this life. This is just a temporary situation. That that's a good proper attitude to have. That this world is not my home, but we're here. We have to be here, here now. So could we at least try and make the wait at the bus station a little more comfortable? You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's a terrible a thing to say. That's not so screwed up. It's not such a horrible request to make, is it? You don't want to talk theology with me right now, though. I am in a very bad place emotionally right now, and just feeling tired and sick and worried and sick, and this year has really been rough. And I let it got the better of me. And spiritually speaking, right now it feels like that I'm calling God, but nobody's answering the phone. Nobody's home. Nobody's answering. And he wouldn't have anything he'd want to say to me if he did. And there's a point when there are times when you look at your life and go, and you realize how badly you've messed it up, and all the sin that you've waded through, and all the mistakes you made when you dang well knew better, and just you didn't just go off the rails, you drove off them. Like you were launching a car off the end of a harbor. And somebody asked you if you have Jesus in your heart, and you're so messed up that you wonder. Because you think nobody who had Jesus living in his heart could be this messed up, could have failed this hard. You know, and you wonder, are you really a born-again Christian, or have you just been fooling yourself? And all the logical arguing in the world doesn't help. The human heart isn't logical. And just reciting Bible passages at it doesn't do a thing for it sometimes. Day by day, trying to remind yourself over and over again. Whosoever, if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For God, you know, and you say, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And you keep telling yourself over and over again, I believed, I know I'm a sinner, I know I called on Jesus, asking him to save my soul. And the devil's right there, you know, just chipping away at the back of your head like an ice pick in your ear. You know what one of the names of the devil is? The word Satan. It's a Mid-Eastern word. It means it's also pronounced shaitan. It means the enemy. Another name of him is the accuser. go through a long, hard stretch where it's like the accuser is sitting on my back, riding on my neck. And I can't throw him off because I can't bring myself to believe he's wrong, that his accusations aren't true. So it's, I go through these times, and it's a dark time. It's a hard time. And I think maybe it's just shallowness in me, just shallow, because it's easy to have faith when the sun is shining. You know, when things are going well. I don't know that that's, you know, that's only human, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, think about it. It's, you know, it's hard to believe that you've been blessed and redeemed when life is kicking you over and over in the teeth. And when you keep looking back and you realize, and the more you look, the more you realize how bad you screwed up. So many things. And you can't seem to turn yourself around. You pray God, you pray to Jesus to just work one tiny miracle. And change your and help you change your own heart. Or have him change your heart for you. And you wake up the next morning, you're still the same you. Still making the same mistakes, still doing the same wrong things. It's a way, it's, and imagine what it was like for Job. Job knew he hadn't done anything wrong. And still, he had his friends there, chipping away at him. And I'm Job. So, I seriously doubt I'm going to be any sort of blessing to anybody in any sort of spiritual need right now, because I'm sort of foundering myself. Well, when I ask y'all, when I say, you know, you'll pray for me, because I need all that, I'm not just joking. I'm not joking. I'm dead serious. Stone cold serious. of you that have read my fan fictions, you'll know that one of my characters, Arthur, he's basically a self-insert of me. Only he's classier and smarter, and he's got more on the ball. He's still old and fat. And he's still got mountains of issues, just like me. He became an outlet. Couple chapters in the audience, I just dumped out a lot of my issues right there on the chapter, just angsting all over the place. Nowhere else to go with them. Tired of feeling like this. Tired of being like this. And frankly, years ago, I forgot how. If I don't know how to change anymore, I don't know how to be a new person. And God doesn't seem to be particularly interested in helping with my personal maintenance. Really let my I'm paddling on my dad again here. Half of it is I'm afraid to ask for help. I'm afraid to ask God for help sometimes. Why? Because when I was growing up, when I was in, one of the things Dad likes to pop up in his sermons was how he thought it was he thought it was witty or clever, I suppose. But he would talk about, if you ask God to be patient, He'll give you a reason to be patient. If you're, you ask God for these things, He'll give them to you. That if you ask God for help, basically his favorite sermon note was that if you asked God for help, if you wanted patience, He'd put you in a situation where you needed more than you had. If you wanted, so be careful what you ask God for, because He just might give it to you. That kind of thing. So basically, he's, and I came away from that with and I'm still stuck with that subconscious conviction that God is a jerk-ass genie. And if you ask him for help, he'll turn. God's way of helping you is when you ask for help, he'll turn up the heat on you, crank up the thermostat, twist the screws a little more. I'm like, great, that's just what I need. I'm already struggling, and you're telling me that if I ask God for any help, he's going to make things worse for me. Like, is this really biblical? Is this really scriptural? They wonder why so many people are falling for that prosperity theology. When that kind of stuff is the alternative. Jesus the jerk-ass genie. I don't need character building trauma in my life. I need help. And this is the only comfort you're going, this is the comfort that the preacher's going to offer to me. Well, don't worry, God will crank things up for you. The response is, oh, it's just that if you don't go through hardships and trials and struggles and difficulties, you'll never grow. And I'm like, I don't care about growing. Not anymore. If that's how it's going to be, I'm not too, I'm not buying. The old Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin's dad, kind of an idiot. Constantly dragging his family along for these miserable camping trips and vacations and making a kid join various, sports. Builds character. Builds character. Who the hell wants to build character? Like ordinary day-to-day circumstances aren't quote-unquote character building enough. We got to go looking for trouble. It's like, I don't need character building, I need help. I don't know if you can hear me out there. I'm gonna turn off that. Let's see here. I'm gonna listen here for a second, see if I can hear you. Testing, 1 2 3. Testing, 1 2 3. I don't know if you can hear me out there. Okay, great. So it works, sort of, as usual. I'm sorry I'm such a downer right now. Like I said, it's been a rough year. It's been a rough week, and I'm tired. I haven't had a proper night's sleep in days. That's my own fault, largely. I'll be sitting here. It'll be like at, 1 or 2, it'll be like midnight or 1 and 2 in the morning. I'll go, I need to get up and go to bed. I start to get up, and then the next thing I know, I'm waking back up and it's 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. It's like, crap. And there's no sleeping now. And away the day goes. Let's not fool ourselves. It's easier to be full of Christian joy when things are going okay. And that makes me, I think that just makes me a big hypocrite because, I'm more at peace when things are okay for obvious reasons. I look at this, and all it takes is things to go, downhill just a tiny bit, and I'm like, why hast thou forsaken me? I'd be tired of me too. I am tired of me. I'm tired. But especially of myself. I'm really wanting to switch topics here. I'm going to switch topics, change topics for a little bit. Let me save this. Okay, it's saved. Good. Uh, let's turn on to more cheerful topics, like the Vegas shooting. Somebody just recently pointed out the death toll at this Vegas shooting. That's basically Chicago monthly. For Vegas, it was a monstrous tragedy. For Chicago, it was Tuesday, you know. Or rather September, you know, or August or June, or pick your month. Chicago, one of the strictest gun control cities in the Union, you know. And surprise, it's not working. It's come out, still more evidence. Nobody knows for sure, but little bits of evidence leaking out. Oh yeah, he was quote unquote radicalized. I'm gonna guess it wasn't the Shriners that radicalized him. Just going out on a limb here. It was literally not an out. This galls me. This galls me beyond belief. Hillary Clinton. Literally within an hour of the shooting. Literally within an hour or two of the shooting. Bodies had just hit the ground. And she was out there tweeting about how, we needed gun control laws we needed to close the loophole to let people buy silencers. Because imagine how horrible the death toll would have been if they hadn't been able to hear the shots. And the first impulse is of most people that engage wrong. The first impulse of conservatives and gun right activists and the people on the right and decent God-fearing law-abiding, the first impulse when somebody says something like that is to try and engage them logically. The first impulse is to say a silencer, there be people who say the silencer would not have rendered the gun invisible, audible either. That even with a silencer, properly called repressors, the gun. They're noise suppressors. They're mufflers. A muffler on a car doesn't make the car soundless. And, same principle. A gun with a silencer on it is still very loud. It's not like on TV or in the movies where they just go. They're still loud. It's just that it keeps it from being loud enough to blast your eardrums out. You fire a gun in an enclosed space like inside a room, it'll rupture your eardrums. It's a safe, basically they're people who are lobbying to outlaw silencers are lobbying to make guns more dangerous. Or people point out, there are other people who have pointed out in response to Hillary's post that the type of gun he used would have melted a silencer. Rapid fire silence, there's really no such thing as a rapid fire silencer. They overheat rapidly after a couple of shots. And they demonstrated it on TV, and it melted, it crumbled. And so on, and so the first impulse of any decent person is to try and set your anger aside and address her logically and rationally. Tell me something. How well does that work? It does not work at all. It does not work at all. It does not work at all to speak logically, calmly, and rationally to somebody who is determined not to be logical or rational. It's no more effective than trying to speak like a mature adult to a 3-year-old child. You cannot stop a 2-year-old going through a terrible tantrum from telling by, now, Missy, we need to know, we need to use our words, and it is, blah 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 blah, and the kids, doesn't work. What was needed here was a gut response, and the gut response that should have been used when Hillary Clinton posted such a thing is, "You soulless bitch. You soulless bitch." The blood had not even soaked into the ground. The bodies are not even cold yet. And here you are trying to step across on these corpses to lobby for more of your government gun-grabbing laws. You soulless whore. You sea hag. You thing in a pantsuit. You just go the hell away. You horrible she-beast. She spent her entire life having people be polite to her and coming to the conclusion that meant they were subservient to her. There's a time to be polite to people, and there's a time to flat out look them straight in the eye and say, "Get thee behind me, Satan." This is some people don't seem to understand. This is something some people don't want to understand. This is part of the reason I'm so much trouble with the Middle East. But most people don't understand. One of the things people don't understand about the culture in the Middle East is that, let's call it is, the Muslim societies, the Muslim culture. We're not talking about Jews here, okay? We're not talking about any other people living in the Mediterranean area. We're talking about we're talking, call them Middle Eastern, we'll call it Muslim. Muslim culture, which is Arab and Middle Eastern culture, more or less. people who are, we go in there, we offer them soft words, we offer them, all these aid programs, the charitable donations that we make, and all, and all. In their culture, they see that as Danegeld. If a stranger comes to you, if a stranger or a foreign power comes to you offering you gifts, it is because they are a supplicant, and they are trying to buy your benevolence. They see Western civilization, they see America and Great Britain and all these other Western countries coming to them with aid packages and all these programs and all this money that they give, and it's supposed to be, from the Western perspective, it's benevolence, is trying to from their perspective, we've just basically admitted that they've and we're trying to buy them off. They see it as a subject to giving tribute to their lords and masters, and it inflates their arrogance that much more. You've got somebody like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton never worked a day in her life. Hillary Clinton has spent her entire life do they see Hillary, Obama, Bill Clinton, Obama's wife? Do they seem arrogant to you? Imagine why. Imagine that, Imagine why. Because they have literally spent their entire lives living among the elite and having everybody else other than the elite, even many of the other elites, bowing and scraping to them. And they see, and it's especially horrible. Something about liberal women, man. Michelle Obama and Hillary Clinton are cut from the cloth, cookie cutter. They're just rude, crass, arrogant. And Hillary, especially Hillary, the stories that come out about her, she's just a heinous bitch. There is no other word to describe it, and any other word to sell it. Just vicious, arrogant, firing people on a whim because she, she's miffed with something stupid, and Michelle Obama, same way. And her husband, they walk around. You've seen pictures of Barack Obama. Got his nose in the air 9/10 of the time. They consider themselves the elite, and speaking to them politely, rationally, and and everything. It just comes across as proof that you're subservient to them. They seriously need somebody to grab them by the short hairs, yank them around, and say, "Oh, we've had enough." No chance of it generating any change attitude in them. Not until it became a consistent thing. but it might make them think twice before pulling some of the arrogant crap that they do. They need a not jerked in their face. They need to wake up. It would wake. Have somebody just flat out tell them to their face that there's, you know, have somebody flat out tell Hillary straight to her face that she's a soulless, dried up cunt. And have her in a situation where she can't do anything about it. It'll drive home the nail, you know, that things, you know, everything she's used to can go off script real fast. It might make her think twice before opening her pie hole again. I apologize for my language, folks. Well, not really. Queen Victoria, you have the vapors. There's some things that need to be said, and they need to use the most vicious words you can to say it. They need hauled on the carpet. That's just summing it up. They need hauled on the carpet. As long as everybody's too busy playing by the Queensberry rules, you know, they're not gonna land a knockout punch. This is why I say, you know, all these. I am so sick of these clickbait headlines. Shocking new discovery about Hillary. Shocking new revelation about Obama. Shocking new this. Shocking, you know. And I'm like, you call me back when they're in cuffs. Oh man, if the day ever finally comes when some cop puts that sea hag in handcuffs, she is going to utterly lose it. Oh, please, Jesus, let it be today. Let that day come. Let that day come when I'm alive. But they put her in cuffs. Some cop pulls her over, puts her in cuffs, and she's on camera, and she just blows her circuit, you know. It will be epic. With everything that she's been doing to people beneath her, behind closed doors, she finally comes out in public. That'll be the end of their empire. But until that day, don't call me. Don't stand there and tell me, oh, Scandalous knew this, Outrageous knew that. And I really love to, so-and-so puts liberal spokesperson in her place. Yeah, right. Losing a dang election didn't slow him down. Come on. Get real. I saw footage of the talking heads after Trump won, and with every state he won, I mean, their faces, they look like they were getting a colonic. They could not believe it. I remember when Reagan won. I remember he won his second term. And the talking heads were out there in force. The news guys, they're out there live and the first thing that came out about, well, obviously the minorities did not come out and vote. No, with record turnout. Don't let nobody lie to you. It was a record voting turnout. It was a record voting turnout and we chose Ronald Reagan. Walter Mondale was the biggest dumbass ever for president in the history of America. He came out and he just basically ran, get me in office and I'll raise your taxes. Seriously, he came out, well, we may, in order to balance the budget, we may have to raise taxes across the board. I hate to break it to you, but any school teacher, any housewife knows that that's bullshit. The problem is that they don't have enough money. The problem is that they have too many things they spend money on. Anybody with a household budget knows that problem, and they all know the answer. The problem is, you got 10,000. If you got 20,000 a year coming in every year, and you got 100,000 going out, guess where you need to start bringing out the red ink. The left never wants to cut spending. That might cost some welfare votes. That might cost some votes with people that don't pay all. Oh my. The majority of our taxes go to entitlements. Social Security, welfare, Medicaid, subsidies. And they did math once. You could literally, it came down to this. If you took every millionaire, liquidated their assets, you took every millionaire in the country, liquidated all their assets, sold all their companies, everything. Reduce them to poverty. And took all that money. It would literally only cover 1 year. 1 year. Of entitlement expenditures in the United States budget. We could eat the rich and we'd have one meal, in other words. And we'd wake up hungry the next day. Oh, but the problem isn't spending. The problem isn't spending. No. The only place they want to cut spending is in the areas where the government is actually authorized. Military, infrastructure, police. No, they want to cut that. You point out, PBS, public broadcasting. That should have been cut to the breezes decades ago. They should have been cut adrift ages ago. And this is what gets me. You talk about that. You talk about that, and they're like, "Oh, you're so stingy. Oh, you want to cut Big Bird loose. You want to cut Sesame Street loose. You want them to." Hello? Sesame Street is the 1%, okay? Big Bird is the 1%. You get what I'm saying? Sesame Street, merchandising alone is more than enough to cover the expense of running Sesame Street. Okay? The show on PBS that people actually watch, they have advertising, they have merchandising, they have, they're raking it in. And they're getting more money from the government. Hello? And then they come back with this, oh, well, they aren't asking for that much. They're only a teeny tiny portion. Look, if you can't, come back with this. If you can't cut the small stuff out of your budget, what the hell are you going to do when it comes to start chopping prices off the big ticket items? If you can't give up your Sesame Street and let it fend for itself in the public market, and hello, there isn't a network on the planet that wouldn't just fall over itself to get Sesame Street on their docket. You know what I'm saying? They would do anything to have Big Bird and Elmo and Grover working on their channel. They could be on commercial television 5 minutes after PBS shut down. This is the same story with news. What is the first thing you give up when you are in dire straits financially and you have to cut your budget? The small stuff, the trivial stuff. I think we're going to be doing without Haagen-Dazs this week. I think we're going to have to consider dropping cable and Netflix and all these little things that we do for fun. The entertainment budget's going to be a little bit smaller. We're not going to be eating out anymore. They cut back on the trivial stuff, and it's all small little bitty things. But that's where the cuts have to come first. National Endowment for the Arts, trivia. It's not supposed to be funded by government in the first place. It's only a drop in the bucket, but it's a drop that has to go. PBS, a government-run broadcasting service. Hello? Nobody has any problem with that. But out the door. You remember that guy with the dollar bill costume who was on TV all the time, How to get free government money, how to get free government money, how to get free government. I picked up an old copy of his book at the library once. You can get copies at the library. I don't know how the guy's still making those books now. He updates it, I guess. I picked it up. It was the size of a New York phone book. I'm not lying. It was as thick as twice as thick as my wrist. Huge book of these free government handouts to every damn fool thing on the planet you can imagine, and a few million you couldn't. Not on your best day. In fact, the way this guy did this, the way the guy managed to make a living doing, selling these books, he used to do this. He was a lawyer. Well, his job working for these big companies, these big corporations, was to apply for all these little grants, even the ones that were supposed to go to little bitty, This is for the little guy over here. This little thing over here, and this little thing over here is supposed to help out housewives over in the, and so on and so forth. These corporations apply for these government hands up by the thousands every year. They fill out the forms, send them in, and they get the lion's share of the money. I keep telling you people, using the government to give out charity is like feeding the sparrows with grain. It's like feeding grain to the sparrows by passing through a horse first. Except, in that circumstance, the grain would actually be yours instead of stolen at gunpoint from somebody. I really love these jerks that come out here. They're millionaires and they're going, oh, I would happily pay higher taxes if it meant we had this. Or what they're saying is, I would happily pay higher taxes if it meant you had to pay higher taxes too. They did studies on this. They found out they did experiments on this. It's malice. They found, give it an opportunity. The subjects of the experiment were given a small amount of money. They were told they were given two choices. They were told either they could give about half of it to this charity and keep the other half themselves. It was like $5-10, right? About that much, not much. And they were told, you have choices. You can give about half of it to this charity over here and keep half of it, or you can give 3/4 of it to the same charity, but this other guy over here will be forced to give the same amount you are. And if they thought the other person was better off or richer or anything, they would immediately go for forcing the other person to make the higher donation, even though they were perfectly willing to cut off their own nose to spite their face. They would screw themselves over just so that they could force somebody else to be screwed too. These are the kinds of people. The kinds of people that insist that nobody should have these big, dangerous SUVs. Everybody should be forced to drive in little death trap rice boxes. Are you getting you've heard when I remember when SUVs, the big cars really started coming out at first. There were all these soccer moms who threw a temper tantrum. They're so dangerous. They're so dangerous. And the people that bought these, well, we're trying to keep our family safe. Don't we have a right to buy a car that is stronger, safer, and will protect my family? And these people came back, well, you need to take the same risk. Well, basically, they didn't want anybody to be safe. They would rather have everybody in peril of their lives driving on the road than to have at least some people safe. Crab bucket mentality. It's an old sailor's myth if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, you won't have to bother putting a lid on the bucket. Because every time a crab will try and climb out, the others will pull it back down into the bucket. And that is the shameful, spiteful reality of pretty much all of humanity. We would rather destroy ourselves. We'd rather all end up going into the cooked pot. Even if it meant we could escape. We would rather, there's an old joke, Russian joke, mean, miserly, spiteful neighbor, finds a genie in a bottle. He opens the bottle, a genie comes out and tells him he gets one wish. But remember, whatever he wished for, his neighbor would get twice as much. And so the nasty old man says, I wish I was blind in one eye. Envy, spite. We'd rather see our own house burn than see another person living in a slightly better house than our own. This was a phenomenon. These activists, they go out to, what is it? What are they called? Peace Corps, something like Peace Corps. They had this common problem: is that they'd go out, they would find these communities, these villages, and they would teach one or two farmers would they would manage to talk one farmer generally in each town into trying these new farming techniques, different fertilizers, different, so on and so forth. And the farmer that year would have a bumper crop, of course, and they do great. And then, to their shock, the guy would take what he had made. He'd take it, and he would get extra. He would sell it. He would make more money. He would be doing it, and they'd think, "Oh, great, we've set him on the road to prosperity." And they'd come back and they'd find out the guy had taken everything he had made, all the extra food he'd grown, all the extra money he'd made, and he'd blow it all on a massive party for the entire town. And he'd still be in dire straits, still poor, the next day. And they couldn't figure out why. They couldn't figure it out. And then they sat and they analyzed it, and they realized what it was. It was spite. You see, in that culture, when one of these farmers, they'd start talking to the neighbors, and they realized what it was, is that in those little communities, when one farmer started doing better, they had this childish, stuck mentality. The other neighbors would get resentful. They'd see his crop, they'd see his corn that was twice as high as theirs. They'd see, or his grapes or whatever the heck it was that were, going great guns, and they would get spiteful and resentful and start shunning him. And they realized that somewhere on some level, some subconscious level, these people if these people saw one of their neighbors doing better than them in any way, they were convinced in their subconscious that he somehow stole his prosperity from them. which is ridiculous because his corn wasn't jumping the fence and eating all their grapes and then jumping back over. He wasn't stealing from them. He was just doing better than them. But they saw it that way. And so in order to make the peace, in order to win back his place in the community, to get them to stop shunning him, he would have to blow it all on a big party. A big feast for everybody in the town, in the village, to get people to accept him as one of the community again. And crab bucket, welcome to the crab bucket. This is the root of communism. This is the root of socialism. And communism, socialism, national socialism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it, it's always the same thing, where we're all expected to put everything into a single pot, and anybody who does any better than anybody else somehow stole from everybody else. We have this in our society, in our collective guilt. Liberals believe, the first thing they believe. It's called one guy called it the grand unification theory of liberalism. It's a summary. It's basically, it goes like this. Liberals grow up, the first thing they're taught, the only thing they're really taught is war and conflict is bad. War and conflict is bad. It's the worst thing in the world. It's the worst thing in the universe. And conflict is caused when people have arguments, and arguments are caused when people have differences. And so we have to pretend that everybody, all religions, all faiths, all philosophies are the same. That there's no difference between good and bad, right and wrong, beautiful and ugly, successful and failure. Oh, they're all the same. They pass it off as they pass this off as equality. And if you say that one group is better than another for any reason, you're evil. And of course, reality doesn't agree with them. You'll have one group, capitalism works better than communism. One way of doing business works better than another. One piece of artwork is beautiful, while another one is a piece of crap. And one guy wins the foot race, the other guy comes in last. That's life. Some things work better than others, some things are better than others. And they come back if there is, and they can't accept that. They say that if one guy does better than another, it's because the one who succeeded had to have cheated. What was the first thing that came out of the mouths when President Bush won the election? Al Gore stamped his widow feet and started running around going, he cheated, he cheated, he cheated, he cheated. And we spent months with the Democrats, quite frankly, cheating to highest heaven and lowest hell, counting chads and counting votes and recounting them and counting them sideways and counting them upside down and, counting them with a magic 8-ball, and every way they tried. Bush still won. But to this day, decades later, there are people that still swear up and down that Al Gore was the real winner. And Bush cheated. This is the mentality. If all ways are equal, and if one way does better than the other, that way cheated. And this is where they come up with this exploitation crap. America has done better than this country over in the middle of the third world. Obviously, America is exploiting the third world people. No, we're not. We're not exploiting the third world. We're employing them. They talk about these evil companies that go over to third world countries or over into the Middle East, and they put up a company and they start up a factory, and they're only paying them $2 a day. They're only paying them $2 a day. Well, that's 5 times what they make at jobs that are already there. These people aren't, the natives aren't applying there because they think the oppression will be much nicer, These people aren't applying for these jobs because they want to be oppressed. They are applying because they want better pay. You ever met one of these, everybody likes to talk about how these evil corporations and special interests are buying influence with our politicians. Now, in this exchange, who's the whore? Think about that. Some company or corporation or group or organization gives your local politician, your local representative, a bribe. Who's the whore? And that's not even really a fair representation. I'm sorry. When it comes to the federal government versus the corporation, the federal government versus the corporation, the person who is paying is not the one who has the power. Okay? In any situation like this, in any situation, the person who is paying is not the one who has the power. The person who is paying is not the one who has the power. These companies and special interests, they're going and handing over these huge wads of cash to our politicians because they know that if they don't, the politicians can ruin them. This is why companies are going overseas. This is why companies are sending representatives to give all these gratuities. The supposed statesmen. This is what happened to Bill Gates. I remember this back in the 90s. It used to be that Bill Gates and Microsoft did not make political donations. Whether it was a matter of principle or just a matter of not wanting to spend that much money on something that stupid. I have no objections to spending money on stupid people. Whatever. He didn't. And guess what happened? He gets whacked by the government, dragged in front of a special investigative committee, and accused of what? Having a monopoly. And they dragged it on for months and months, and almost over a year. They spent more money Bill Clinton's administration spent more money on trying to get Bill Gates behind bars for a monopoly that didn't exist than they spent on on anti-terrorist efforts. And even back then, Osama bin Laden was a thorn in the side of the free world. Don't let anybody fool you. I'll tell you this much. Bill Gates donates now. He donates to both parties generously. He knows who he has to pay the Dane Guild to. It was stupid. I'm serious. I kid you not. One of the things they tried to do, that he was suppressing competition from other browsing, because he included their grounds for accusing. One of the things they accused him of is that he included Internet Explorer with Windows, and he didn't include Netscape Navigator or any of the other web browsers with it. Oh my! They were basically, think about it. Even the news going. This is like asking. This is like suing Coca-Cola for not including 1 can of Pepsi with every 6-pack of Coke. It's all about spite and envy. Spite and envy and Schadenfreude. Hands are getting a little shaky. I've talked about this before. I've talked about the thing with Bill Gates before. Everybody likes to talk about evil corporations and all that. I know corporations, companies do wicked things. They're people. But we have seriously got a problem about telling who the real, recognizing what the real threat is. Free market keep corporations under control. Far better than any government intervention ever will. And it's not the governments it's not the corporations that are a threat to our freedoms or our lives. Again, you remember Sinclair, the Jungle. Everybody knows about him from school. How he basically saved us all from bad food, you know, because he did that expose on the meatpacking industry. Factoid. He admitted later that he made up most of it. Another factoid. You know who the main supporters were for legislation? You know, for government inspections and all that other crap? The meatpacking industry. You see, they figured this out way ahead of time. The meatpacking industry, the big players, they knew that they had deep pockets, and they knew that they could afford to make whatever changes, no matter how silly, that the politicians demanded of them. But they also knew that their competition, you know, the smaller competitors, would go under. It was a gambit. Upton Sinclair's book was used as a gambit by them to kill off their competition. And you try and tell people that we could get along without the FDA or all these other government unconstitutional government meddling programs, and it's like you told them that Santa Claus, you know, it's like you just told a 5-year-old that Santa Claus didn't exist. But what about all the things they've done for us? You know, and who keeps telling you that the government did all these wonderful things for you? Guess what? Your teachers, who are employed by who? The government. Yeah, try again, you know. Look, I've gone over this before. All the things the government inspects, food, drug, 2 words. They can at least understand these words. Privatize it. Consumer products are already, you know, inspection of consumer products is already privatized. Household appliances, toys, etc., so on. There are private companies who examine products for safety. For instance, Underwriters Laboratory. Look them up. They do product inspections. The companies come to them. Pay Underwriters Laboratory out of their own pocket to test their new products and make sure that they're safe. And Underwriters Laboratory takes the money, inspects the product, and gets it back to them either with a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Why do they do that? Why would this greedy capitalist company pay somebody to inspect their product? Simple, because they want Underwriter Laboratory's stamp of approval. You put a product out there with the Underwriters Laboratory stamp on it, other companies will buy it. Customers at the stores will buy it. If Underwriters Laboratory gives them the thumb down, then that product ain't gonna lie. And so they got a motivation to go to Underwriters Laboratory. What's more, Underwriters Laboratory has a motivation, one, to do their job well, to make sure that the products they test actually are safe and reliable and everything else, and two, to do it in a affordable and timely fashion to keep their costs down and the turnaround time for each product to a minimum. Because if they do a bad job, companies will stop coming to them and start going to one of Underwriter Laboratories' competitors. Which means that these companies, we get our products, the products come out in the shop. Every now and then there will be a product that turns out to be unsafe, but they call it back. You see them every day. They got the signs. We retested this, and we made a discovery. Oops, pull it back off the shelf. That's all private. That's private industry doing that. And they could do the same thing for the Food and Drug Administration. Privatize it. As long as the government is running on tax dollars. The FDA runs on tax dollars. So they have no incentive to keep the costs of their tests down, and they have no incentive to have a good turnaround on what products and drugs they test. We have got products, we have got drugs, life-saving drugs that are languishing away in some back shelf in a food and FDA laboratory. Because they're just jerking around about getting the products approved. The FDA is a bottleneck, and that bottleneck is literally costing people lives. I wish I could remember the name of the illness. There's one illness. It's a disease. It is 100% fatal. The disease. Remember this, the disease is 100% fatal. If you get it, you die. There is a treatment available overseas. It has an 80% success rate, but about 20% of the patients who take it die from from side effects from the. Think about this. That treatment, that medicine is not available in the United States because the FDA will not approve it. It's got a 20% failure rate. But the disease it cures has a 100% failure rate. They damn given 100 people with this disease, they damn all of them to death. Except for the few who are rich enough and ambitious enough to go on a medical tour. That's what they call it, medical tourism, where these people go across seas to get treatments that aren't allowed in their own countries. The majority of things that the government is currently doing and is spending trillions of dollars to do are things that the government should never be doing and should not doing in the first place, and they could be done better by private industry in the first place. Yes, that includes things like roads. I hate these people, oh, you like your taxpayer paid for roads. Hello. You think a private company could lay these roads down? Well, yeah, they do. Because that's how it works. The government doesn't go, the government doesn't have a staff of road crews. They hire private companies to go out and lay those roads and run those wires from telephone, to run those power lines. But because they're using taxpayer dollars, they don't care whether the job gets done right, and the people doing the job don't care how much the bill runs up. So we get a substandard system. What I'm suggesting is that 99% of the things the government just need to cut out the middleman. Cut out the middleman. And the government is the middleman. And the middleman's because the middleman is neither motivated to cut costs, guarantee quality. Government bureaucrat is not motivated by doing his job. He is motivated to the expansion of his bureaucracy at the expense of everything else, if necessary, and even if not necessary. Do you believe for an instant that the politicians, the senators and the congressmen, do you believe for an instant that they're not aware of all these things? Do you believe for an instant that they aren't aware of the basics of actual economics? Do you believe for an instant that somebody who is, somebody 40, 50, 60, 70 years old can actually live their entire lives without learning Economics 101, something that children learn? These people have most of the people in Congress are millionaires. They're septuagenarians and millionaires, and oh, what a great representation of the American people, right? And most of them, it's inherited wealth. Ted Kennedy's and the like. They know dang well how the world works. They went to the best schools. They can read a book. They know more about, look at what's happening in Nicaragua right now. They know better than we do what the socialist system does. Oh, look, don't let anybody fool you. When somebody comes out, well, what about democratic socialism? oh, great. I'm sorry. Whether it was voted for or not, it's still a shit system. Socialism is still shit. Whether it was handed down from on high, or whether the people were tricked into voting it into place. Democracy is not a medicine. It is not a cure for anything. Democracy does not guarantee freedom, not in the least. It does not guarantee freedom. It does not guarantee prosperity. You can have the most democratic country in the world and still be a shithole. Pardon my French. Because a democracy, all a democracy is mob rule with ballots. Without an absolute moral code, without an absolute moral code-based legal system, without laws, without values, without objective, non-negotiable principles. Without those, democracy is no better than any other form of tyranny or mob rule. As one statesman put it, what's the point of trading a single tyrant 1,000 miles away for 1,000 tyrants living 1 mile away? Said it before. A democracy, 3 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. A republic, the sheep get to pick which wolf is going to cook dinner. A free country, a republic, a constitutional government is one where the sheep has a gun and a list of what is never to be on the menu. That's what people... Oh, we need to change the Constitution. The point of a Constitution is to have laws stated that are not up for debate. The Bill of Rights is not to be up for debate. Freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, the right to lawful assembly. Those essentials, they were enshrined in the Constitution to make it clear that these things were not up for a popular vote whenever somebody got a bug up their butt. Unfortunately, we got supposed college graduates coming out, college kids saying, "Oh yeah, we need some controls on free speech." We no longer hold these truths to be self-evident. Now, because we have ceased to hold these truths to be self-evident and to be divinely inspired, endowed by our Creator, because we no longer believe in that, we no longer have a foundation upon which our government will stand. And we are going to eventually have to fight the same battles, the same war that the founding fathers did, just to secure the blessings of freedom for ourselves and our progeny. This is why nobody trusts an atheist. Because an atheist has basically declared that among other things, he's basically declared the Constitution null and void. We hold these truths to be self-evident that men are endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, and the atheist says who? And we have no answer. I've seen several conservative atheists online. Bill Whittle being one of them. And great, he's got right-wing conservative values. But again, it comes down to the question. Presented with atheism. Presented with this question. Says who? He has no answer for what he believes. You could argue utilitarianism. Oh, it works. It functions. Yeah. Well, so does every system. For a while. And if you don't care, says who? You don't care that it's going to collapse after you're gone. Says who? Atheists can be moral. Atheists can be moral and ethical. Well, big deal. A goldfish can be 3 feet long if you put it in a big enough pond. Same principle. An atheist doesn't. An atheist is basically declared that there's no higher intellect than that of man. And we've seen the results. We've seen the results. It's a matter of history. It's a matter of history. It's a matter of historical record. What happens when a society arises where the principles of atheism, which is humanism, they go hand in glove, are proclaimed as the ultimate law of the land. The French Revolution, Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, Communist Russia, Communist China. Beating that horse to death. I wouldn't say I've beaten a dead horse, but I think I've worn it down to the hooves by now. That's the internet for you. A large gathering of people screaming and yelling and beating gathered around, screaming, yelling, and beating sticks on a vaguely horse-shaped stain on the ground. But it bears repeating. Sorry, I had to stop for a rest for a minute. I just pooped. Tired. Out of juice, out of energy. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk Harry Potter. Why not? You know what I would give just to see one book, one fan fiction written where Hermione wasn't, the end all and be all of everything. I'm sorry, guys. Hermione. J.K. Rowling, when she first wrote the books, she at least let Harry be the main character. But her fans, and I'm sorry, but J.K. Rowling is a weather vane. She is. All it takes is an expressed opinion, and her Word of God attributes will immediately change overnight. Where are the gay characters in your story? Dumbledore was gay, Yeah, right, honey. You were thinking of that all along. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you're right. It's a terrible idea that Ron and Hermione marry. Mm-hmm. So on and so forth. But really. Hermione was a bitch. And she barely learned anything through the entire series. From the moment she arrived, she was bossy, condescending, she was rude, she was pushy, she nagged. And she was full of herself. And if anybody did better than her in any way at anything, she turns suspicious and sulky and fussy. And I find it incredible. You can tell that a woman wrote this because when women write fiction, when they write romance, you'll notice it's the same thing every time. There's one woman, one girl, or one woman with. It's always two men orbiting around her. The bad boy, the dashing, mysterious, bad boy who's obsessed with her, and the noble, good-hearted boy who's, also obsessed with her, and they both revolve around her like she's their, the center of their galaxy. And look at J.K. Rowling. She writes this book. It's supposed to be Harry Potter. It's supposed to be about Harry Potter. She writes the books, and then she goes and she supervises the movies. And every time she goes back to the well, Hermione becomes more and more important. Till we get to the 7th movie where Ron and Harry are both dancing attendance on her the entire time. It's just sad. I've said it before. Men, for men, porn. You know, the typical male porn aficionados fancy. One guy, two girls. But in women, you know, romance novels are woman porn, ego porn, basically, because it's all about two guys who are there to stroke her ego, and she can, one main guy who's supposed to be the true love of her life, and one other guy kept in reserve, you know, for when the protagonist is, you know, the male protagonist isn't available, so that her ego can keep getting stroked. That was the plot of Twilight for you. There, I saved you some money. One guy pointed out that when you go back and look at the Harry Potter books, Harry Potter, 99% of the time, he could have been replaced by a Mr. Potato Head, or a stuffed doll, or a stuffed monkey, and it would have had just about the same effect on the plot. He wasn't a protagonist. He was a package. He almost never takes initiative himself. It's always somebody else that tells him what to do or leads him in some direction. What can you do, you know? Oh my, I just have to think sometime. making the rounds. They're calling it the zombie drug. Wow. Remember bath salts? People taking that stuff, going nuts, running around, jumping on people, trying to eat them. We were expecting, everybody was expecting like dozens, hundreds of these people to just pop out of the woodwork and start, attacking people at random. Nothing came of it. Does anybody even look at those dang things anymore? What is, just... after the premiere of this stuff, didn't sell too great, did it? Here, we'll give you the stuff that turns you into a raging maniac who'll eat your own face, Oh yeah, I think I'll pass. Just give me the weed. Okay, check this out. Let me. Let me open this. Okay, guys, switch the camera. Switch. Some guy, this is an idiot tried to rob a jiu-jitsu academy. Here we go. Here we have a lovely day at the Kicking Your Butt Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and here's our first contestant. Oh, he's over the rail. And he's back out the rail. And there he goes down the street. And here comes door number 1. Contestant number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. Somebody just had a bad day. I mean, just, there's a reason that most criminals aren't millionaires. You know what I'm saying? And that, there's also a reason criminals aren't. The super genius mastermind criminal is a lot than television and comic book lead you believe. I love how these people they say that we don't need the right to bear arms because, like you're going to fight the government, oh yeah, you're going to fight off them with their bombs and tanks and planes with your 22. No, I'm going to fight them off with my long gun, and the long gun's all my neighbors, and the firearms all my friends and my community. I hate to break it to you. This isn't my judgment. This is the judgment of people who run tyrannical governments. Okay, KGB. They asked former KGB agents, what was the plan for invading the United States? What was the the plan for a land war in the United States? And they looked at the interviewer and laughed. They said there was no plan to ever try and land on American soil and take over that way. They said no way. The quote was, there would be a gun behind every blade of grass. So the people that wanted to conquer us, bury us, and make our children the chattel of communists said it themselves. No. Guns are very, very effective at keeping, firearms in the hands of civilians is very effective at keeping a tyrannical government at bay. If guns aren't any threat to the government, why are state politicians so desperate to get them out of the hands of people? Why is it the first step that every tyrant takes before he starts a genocidal pogrom? Honestly. Ring, ring, pick up the frickin' clue phone. No, I wouldn't, why are the people in Israel having so much trouble with these Arab terrorists who are armed with small firearms? Israeli people have tanks. These people have a couple of mortars and a couple of guns. And they've been giving grief for decades. If civilians with small guns are no threat to a government, why did we lose Vietnam? Pick your narrative and stick to it. That would just be courteous of the left if they, they love to tell their stories. They're just so tales, but they seem to stick to a single theme. Holy crap. Indonesian man had a fight to the death against a 7-meter long python. I got a photograph here. Holy crap. Look at this thing. That's like something out of the movie Tremors. Dang. I'm thinking that the perspective is making it, you know, look bigger than it is, but 7 meters long, that's big enough. 21 feet. Holy crap. Okay, it has been, it's been just under 3 hours. I think I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll try and be broadcasting tomorrow. Y'all take care of yourselves. Part of me doesn't want to shut off. I just don't. I want to shut off. I don't want to shut off. I wonder. I bet you there's somebody is replays these videos that I put up just so they can point and laugh. But this is how I make contact with the world, more or less. I'm just really not up to anything else. I'm not up to socializing in person. I hate the loss of control. Can't really cope with it. So I make contact with other. This is my human contact. Posting these videos online, chatting with you guys. I'd go to a chat room, but you guys, I go to a chat room. Every time I go to a chat room, everybody just sits there for hours, literally. I once logged on, waited a couple hours, fell asleep, woke up 4 or 5 hours later. Not one person said a thing in that entire time. They were all logged on. They were all logged on, but they weren't talking. They wonder why I have such a bad temper. Kind of frustrates me that I have a chat room. On IRC, but ages ago I lost my ops. You know, I am not channel administrator. I can't throw anybody out of the channel. I can't silence them. I can't do anything. You know, so if somebody came in and decided to cause trouble, I couldn't do a thing. It's not like I have to worry about that. The last time I was there, nobody said a thing in days. If I ever got ops back in, I'd be booting people out and keeping them out and just talking. I'm tired of this. I got enough people who don't want to communicate with me in my life. I don't need to be hosting an entire channel full of people who won't say a thing. Thank you for tuning in. But I'll be going now. Y'all take care.